In last couple of lectures, we worked on showing an edit form and populating that edit form with the selected course detail. Now in this lecture, we are going to work on update functionality. So what we want is, whenever this edit button for a course is clicked, we are already showing this edit form. Here, the user can go ahead and he can edit the details of the course, like he can edit the title, he can edit the description, the author and the price. And when this update course button is clicked, we want to update the course's state with that updated course. Let's see how we can do that. So for that, for the update functionality, I'm going to create a new action here and I'm going to call it as update course. Now to create an action, we use create action function. To this, we need to specify a type. So here I'm going to specify update course. Okay, and whenever we are updating a course, we are also going to pass a payload. Basically, we are going to pass the updated object. So here I'm going to specify the props, and let's also specify the type of data which we are going to pass using these props. So we are going to have an object with a course property which will be of type course. Okay, let's save the changes. So this is our update course action. Now, whenever this action will be dispatched, we want to execute a reducer function. So for that, we also need to create a reducer. In here, I'm going to create a reducer using this on method, and this reducer function will run whenever update course action is dispatched. And from within this function, we are going to return a new state. Okay, so this function is going to get a state object, the current state and a payload. So for the payload, I'm going to specify the parameter as action. Now from here, we want to return a new state where we want to have all the properties from the previous state, and there we want to override the courses array. Now what do we want to override this courses array with? So here for now, I'm going to keep an empty array, and before we return something, before we return a new state, I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to call it as updated courses. Okay, now this updated courses is going to store an array, and in that array we will also have that course which has been updated. To get that array, what we are going to do is, from the state, from the current state, we are going to get the courses state, and we are going to loop over it using the map function. And you already know what this map method does. Basically, it loops over an array, and for each iteration, it receives the current object. Here, I'm going to call that current object as course. So this course parameter here, for each iteration, it is going to receive the current object on which this map method is looping over. And whatever we return from here, that will be added to this updated course array. So this map method, it is going to return us a new array with the updated data. Now, what do we want to have in that new array? Here, we are going to check if this action is going to have a course property. And just to avoid any confusion, I'm simply going to call it as C, this parameter as C. So for each iteration, map method is going to pass the current course to this C parameter. So here we are going to check if c.id. So this C, it is going to receive a course object. That course object has an ID property. So if the ID of that course, of the current course, is equal to the ID of the course which we are going to receive in the payload, so here I can say action.course.id. If the ID matches, that means that course is the updated course. In the previous state, we have that course which is not updated, and in the current state, we want to replace that course with the new course which we are receiving in the payload. So here we are checking, we are finding that course which has been updated using its ID, and in this case, if the ID matches, we want to return the updated course, and updated course we have in action.course. Otherwise, if the ID for the course does not match, in that case, we want to return the course from the previous state itself, because that means those courses are not updated. So I'm going to return C. I hope this logic is clear. Okay, and now we are going to set this courses with this updated course. With this, let's save the changes. So our reducer is ready. Now we need to dispatch this action in order to update the course. Now when do we want to dispatch the action? If we go back to our application, we have this edit button. When we click on this, it opens an edit form. Now in this edit form, we have this update course button. So when this button is clicked, we want to dispatch the update course action. Now this update course button and this create course button both are same, right? So we need to add that logic in the add course component inside this onCreateCourse method, because this onCreateCourse method is getting called whenever this form is submitted. Whenever this form is submitted, and that form will be submitted when this create course button is clicked. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is, in order to avoid any confusion, I am going to call this method as onCreate or update. And now we are going to rename that function, that method, in the add course component also. So here also I'm going to call it as onCreate or update course. Now here, if the form is not valid, we directly want to return in both create and update. Okay, otherwise, if the form is valid, then we are going to check if the form is in edit mode. For that, we have this edit mode property in this component. So if the form is in edit mode, we want to dispatch update course action. Else, if the form is not in edit mode, in that case, we want to dispatch create course action. So I'm going to cut this line from here and I'm going to paste it inside this else part. Now, I'll also paste same thing inside this if statement, but here for this course, we want to dispatch another object. Okay, so first of all, what I'll do is, let me comment this, and here I'm going to log this dot course form dot value. Okay, let's save the changes. Let's go to our application and let me open developer console here. Let me clear everything. Let me click on this edit button, and here we have an error and it says failed to set the value property on HTML input element, and this input element accepts a file name. So basically this error we have on the file name input element, but we will resolve it in a bit. For now, let me show you what happens if we edit this form now, and when we click on this update course button. In that case, you will see that an object has been logged, and in that object, since we only updated the title, you will see that we have the updated value. So in this way, we can get the updated value from the form and we can pass it to the reducer when we are dispatching the update course action. Now here there is one thing missing, and that is the ID. And without the ID, we will not be able to update the state, because in the reducer, first what we are doing is, let me close this HTML file. Here we have the reducer. So here, first we are checking for the ID of the course. If the ID matches, then only it is going to update the course. It is going to return the updated course. So here, when we are dispatching that object, at that time we also need to add the ID of the updated course. And for that, what we are going to do is, let me remove this console.log statement. Let me go ahead and let me create a variable here and let me call it as updated course. This is going to be an object, and here let me also specify the type as course. Okay, in this object, I'm going to have an ID property, and to read the ID property, we have this course object here, which will be assigned with the selected course. So I'm going to get the ID from that course. Then let's go and let's specify title. For now, everything I'm going to set it to empty string, and then later we will add the actual value. Price should be a number. Now, from where we are going to read the title? For that, here we can say this dot course form dot value dot title, and here it should be this dot course dot id. In the same way, let me copy this line, let me paste it here, and here we will say description. Then here it should be author. Here it should be price, and we are going to convert it to number type, and here it should be image. Okay, so we are reading the title, description, author, price, and image from the value object, and we are reading the ID from the selected course. With this, let's save the changes, and now we are going to dispatch the update course action. So here we are going to dispatch update course action, and to use this update course action, we also need to import it. And to that update course action, we are going to pass a payload where we want to have a course property, and that course property I'll assign with updated course object which we have created here. And with this, let's save the changes. Let's go to our application. Let me close everything here, and here let me try to edit this JavaScript course, and there I'll simply add 2025 in the title, and here let's also add some text in the description. Okay, let me change the price to 59 or maybe 99.99. Here let's say John.2, and let's click on this update course, and you will see all the details are updated. In the title, 2025 has been added, price has changed to 99.99. Here we are not displaying the author name, but if I go to edit now, you will see that the author name is John.2. Okay, so now our edit functionality is also working as expected. You see, for implementing the edit functionality, we just had to create an action called updateCourse. We did not create a new state because we wanted to update the same course's state. So that's why we did not create any state. We just created an action, and we also did not create a selector. Now, why we did not create a selector? Because selector will be used when we want to read the value of a state. But here, in order to read the value of a state, we already have this getCourses selector. So this getCourses selector is going to return us the current state of the courses array. So that's why we did not create any selector for update action. That is not required. We only created an action, and for that action we created a reducer. And in that reducer, we wrote the logic of how we are going to update the course's state with the updated course. Okay. So I hope this functionality is clear, this logic is clear. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask it. Also remember that this update course will be dispatched whenever this edit mode is true, and this edit mode will be true whenever we click on the edit button. And what I'll also do is, after we have updated the form and we have closed it, we will set the edit mode to false. So let me go and let me copy this line, and I'm going to dispatch set edit mode action, and in there we have a property edit mode which I'm going to set to false, and I'm also going to set the selected course to null. So for that, I'm also going to dispatch set selected course action, and there I am going to set the course to null. Let's save the changes. Let's quickly check everything is working as expected. If I click on this edit button, the application has opened in edit mode. Let me simply change the title, and when I click on this update course button, the title has changed. When I open the create course form, there let me go and let me create a course, and when I click on this create course button, that course has been created. So all the functionalities are working as expected. Now in the next lecture, we are going to work on this delete functionality. This is all from this lecture. If you have any questions from this lecture, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.